Hey guys, it's Dave. There are a few things on my channel that I try to reinforce, and one of those is that there's a learning curve. If you're a beginner or if you're trying a new genus, you're going to have some plants suffer, maybe even lose that plant. I have mentioned many times that I don't consider that a failure. The difference between an expert grower and someone just starting out the journey is that learned experience carried forward to the next plant, to the collection, to the next genus where applicable. However, if you're me, you don't learn from your mistakes, you don't carry it forward, and the plants unfortunately suffer. I have 3 examples of very common mistakes you can avoid right now at any skill level. And if you're at my skill level or above, there's just no excuse. Stick with me. First up is the gorgeous little Hoyacinne I got as a small rooted cutting this summer. This is a hybrid between Archibaldina and Onychoides. So it's going to potentially have very, very large flowers. It's a gorgeous plant. It is doing so well. It got rooted in here. So a little bit slow to start, but then really took off. This is in the tent. I knew that this vine was wrapped around another much, much sturdier plant, but when I watered yesterday, I went all haywire and jerked this out, and I broke the tip. Okay, it's shaking around and you probably can't tell. So there are brand new leaves there, here, and everything else I lost. So this will die back, or I'll just end up cutting it back. This is an example of just going too fast. Anytime you have Hoya next to other Hoya, you have the potential for them to be vining within one another, and jerking them out to give them a quick water is a terrible idea. It's not a huge setback. Obviously, the plant is very happy and very beautiful, but I would have preferred not to have torn the new growth off. Second up is Hoya Russell. This is a Coco Ranch hybrid. I don't remember what that is right now. I'll put it up on the screen. I don't like all of their hybrids because so many of them are just very slight variations on a carnosa, and some of them, honestly, they just all look the same to me. Not this one. This one gets so sun-stressed, so beautifully, a deep maroon. Just an absolutely gorgeous plant. Sent one to South Carolina that was really quite gorgeous. Had this one for myself. It was kind of a rough start. I don't know, it took a while for me to get the hang of this one. So this year it really has done extremely well. I believe that we repotted this together. It was doing incredibly well. It had outgrown a small container, and I put it in my tried and true, for me, terracotta. And then I proceeded to treat this as a normal plant. Is in the tent. I had every intention of taking this out this weekend and putting it on some new shelves I just built. And well, this is not a good sign, my friends. This is not a good sign at all. This is the entire root system. Well, what went wrong here? I'll tell you what went wrong. This was at the back of the tent, and I was treating it like I would any other terracotta pot that got dry on the surface. It's very predictable in the conditions I'm providing in there if the pot is not glazed on the inside like this one is. And I don't have fingernails to make a cool ASMR noise for you. But so this was wet on top of wet, on top of wet, on top of wet. And I had it situated in such a way that it was leaning against the tent, and I didn't know this was rotting out, and I did not take the time to check the substrate because I was so confident that I was doing it correctly, treating it like all the other plants on that shelf. That, my friends, is a rookie error if ever there were one. I mean, this is pure amateur hour. No excuse for this. I am going to be starting over yet another plant. For shame. Flanked between two very beautiful plants. Nothing wrong with the Epipremnum, by the way. The Kujang's Flame is just fine. It's here for eye candy because I have some blank wall over on that side and I wanted something there. This is my Rhaphidophora tetrasperma, or Rhaphidophora, if you prefer that pronunciation. I certainly don't care what it's called. I have been growing this for about 2.5 years. It's one of my favorite plants. I love this plant so much. It is here when many of my other large plants are not anymore. And I have been chopping this back and had big plans, and still have big plans for this in the redone living room, which is something I've been working on. And if you don't know, this plant is really lovely at climbing up walls. It won't try to put its roots through my stucco. It flattens out like a Hoya. And so it is a kinder, gentler version of like Monstera deliciosa, for instance, which will destroy your drywall, probably your stucco too. I certainly wouldn't risk it. What has gone wrong with this plant? This guy. This guy right here has gone wrong with this plant. I have let it down. I potted this up on a wood stake, a 6-foot wood stake, oh gosh, at least 2 years ago. I didn't know, or at least locally, I can't buy the 1x1 cedar stakes, which is what I was looking for. They had 2x1, which for some reason I thought that was going to be too wide or too wobbly. I don't know, it's been a while, I don't remember. So I just put a 1x1 wood garden stake in, knowing that those will rot out. Now you see where I'm going with this. I wasn't, it was going to be a year maximum, and then I was going to redo it, and then I just didn't do it. I didn't do it this year, and here we are, redone living room. So I was moving it from the plant porch because it finally got very cold in Iowa. Although it's like 56 degrees today. And it immediately snapped. I can't tell you how many times I have moved this to water it. Every single week. No indication that it was rotting at all. And it snapped one of 3 vines. I got a little lucky. It snapped the shortest of the 3 vines. So fortune favored me on that one a titch. It would have been better not to break any of these because I've just been looking forward to getting this where I want it and the whole thing. So this is just one where I ignored something I told myself I was going to do. I knew this could happen, and yet I just didn't get around to it. I also don't like the substrate it's in. So I had every reason to do something about this plant, and I didn't. And the plant, and I suppose to a lesser degree, I have paid the price for it. One really useful thing to have in this hobby is a sense of humor. Sense of humor about the hobby, a sense of humor about yourself. There are many things I take quite seriously, but I'm not one of them. I'm not on the list of things I take seriously. So I don't care if I'm on camera and I make mistakes, I misspeak. That doesn't bother me at all. This is my Hoya New Guinea ghost. If you've been around a while, you've seen this on my channel once, twice, 3 times, maybe more, I don't know. It's one of my most viewed videos. In general, it might be my second most popular as a single plant focus, I suppose, call it that. I know a lot of people love this plant. It was once incredibly expensive. After this video is done, I will be taking it to the compost. I won't be taking a cutting. I won't be trying to save this plant in any way. It is absolutely, positively, irretrievably infested with spider mites and could have been avoided. Now, I have sprayed it 3 times. I sprayed it with pure alcohol to do this video, and they're just, these leaves look better on camera than they do in real life. The scenario, what I missed is that this thing started, this was a much larger plant not that long ago. It started losing leaves like crazy. And I had assumed this is its first winter out of the tent, although it's been under normal household conditions since spring. I thought furnace heat, very dry here. You know, I've got humidifiers going, but I just figured there's this acclimation process, and I didn't look more closely. I always recommend, even if there's one yellow leaf on a plant, could be just an old leaf dying off, or it could be the start of spider mite infestation. That's what I should have done. I should have seen 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 or 15 or 20 leaves dropping off of this thing. I might be exaggerating at this point. It didn't happen all at once, though, is my point. And taking a much closer look, I gathered them up and took sort of a cursory-ish look. I must not have. You can't miss spider mite damage. Let's just grab one here. Oh my goodness, so many to chew. Oh, that one's hardly. I mean, here we go. Well, this one's coming off. Let's see how this comes up on camera. Do you see all of that damage on that leaf? How the entire leaf is lightly colored? That is completely destroyed by spider mites. Let's look for one that is just patchy. If you ever see anything like this, for instance, this patch on there, that light patch, that's a danger sign. You need to take that seriously. It's not edema, it's not normal, that's a problem. You should be able to see spider mites with your bare eyes, or at least the bright orange eggs, etc. You need no more than you need no more than a normal magnifying glass if you want to get a good look at it. This one's got a light on it. My wife got this for me, and I can't believe how often I use it. I really, really love it. So the long story short is that this entire plant, every leaf on this plant has been infested. And you know, I'm not one of those YouTubers who's going to sit here and say I'm going to go to the ends of the earth to save this plant. This plant is not worth the infestation that it could bring to any other plants. You could make the argument that it would have already happened if it was going to happen, because no other plant has spider mites. Of course, I'm treating them. But I say this to anybody who's dealing with a pest infestation: if you have a plant that is this far gone, do not feel bad about tossing it. Don't give it a second thought. Unless you have a YouTube channel, don't take this amount of time with it. If you see it's that infested, unless it really means something to you, goodbye. Get rid of it. You'll feel so much better not worrying about a plant infesting other plants. Now, I have the luxury of being able to isolate this, spray it, see what would happen. I checked it today, so far gone. No plant in this house that I have attached the kind of sentimental value to that would make it difficult for me to compost if something goes horribly wrong, like this one. There are plants, of course, I would hate to lose. My Ficus benjamina, I guess it's my wife's, but I'd be sad if something happened to that plant. But by and large, I just accept it's part of this hobby. You're gonna lose plants. That's why I feel so much for people who get one, you know, to memorialize a deceased whomever. You know, it's a peace lily. Just because that would be easy for some people to keep alive and keep going doesn't mean it is for most people. And I see that on Facebook sometimes, where people are really broken up because they're losing something they have attributed so much sentimental value to. The other thing you should know, anybody who's spending a ton of money on a plant, this could happen to it. You can lose a plant for a whole lot of reasons, besides me just tearing plants apart apparently. But, you know, my not remembering that I had a glazed pot on that Hoya Russell. I just forgot. It looks like terracotta. And I just, you know, and rotted that sucker out. This one obviously is gone. There, you know, dry rot can happen. Just things can happen. So if you're plunking down hundreds of dollars for a plant, go into it knowing that there is no guarantee that's going to be with you next year. I hope you're going to be with me on the next one, which is going to be coming out real soon. Okay? Bye-bye.